Well, I'll give you a little bit about my background first. So I'm a digital marketer at heart. I guess that's what we do share in common. I had a computer science background at university. I sort of fell into a digital marketing agency and started as a campaign manager, then an analyst, then into management. I did international operations. I ran a team out in India. Then I created a business unit based around analytics. So I was naturally very interested in the data side of things, looking at how the digital world was evolving. It was so obvious even back then in like 2005 that it was going to be such a key part of how the world would work. And so I created this business unit within this agency, and then I went to California and sort of enamored by the entrepreneurial spirit of the Californians, of hanging out on the Google campus. I met a couple of guys from Barcelona and my colleague Adam there in the corner as well, and I decided to, sorry Adam, I decided to quit my job. I sort of took that leaf and came back. And so a couple of guys were running an operation in Barcelona. I headed up the UK side of things, and it was an incredible journey. So we were basically a digital analytics consultancy to start off with. So in terms of what we do, we sort of try and help companies realize that data was an asset and it was something that could be leveraged and taken advantage of. I think when I first met Jason actually many years ago, he said, the great thing about your business, Rob, is that everybody knows they need data. Nobody knows what it is or how much they should pay for it. You've got a great product from that side of things. And so yeah, we worked with UK Flooring, one of our first clients actually, way back in the day. I remember what became a very famous meeting at UK Flooring with Steve when I first met him. And I think Adam gave quite a useful insight about the relationship between phone calls and samples, and Steve shouted across the room, "Now that's insight." And we were like, whoa! And it actually became a motto within our company. It became one of our values that, you know, when our consultants go and work with clients, we want them to be excited about the insights that we could deliver. And so the team were a mix of analysts, marketing technologists, systems integrators, developers. Our sort of mission was to go with a sum total of brain power extended more than the client could put together internally. But it'd have to start with problems. I think one of the challenges with data is that people come and think, right, data's important, I need to leverage it, help me leverage data. And that's the wrong way around of looking at things. What you need to do is start with the challenge. And once you're focused on that challenge and that objective, then you can apply data principles to solve that and optimize things around it as well. So, yeah, it was all good. We were a start-off, we were pulling in the right direction, we were like a family, doing incredibly amazing projects, and then we were acquired by the Havas Group in 2013. The emoji doesn't do it justice. It was 4 years of writing with my left hand. It was a learning experience, definitely. And you know, we hit our targets. We opened offices in Frankfurt, Paris, New York, but it was very difficult being in such a huge corporate environment where my why, my purpose was the P&L, where the numbers, it sort of clouded a lot of what we did in the first place. But yeah, definitely learned a lot from it. So I quit, obviously, exited, sorry, and did a bit of traveling, got married, and now I'm sort of working in a part-time capacity with Jason and Josh and Adam, sort of as acting insight directors, so sort of working around, so that stack that Josh was talking about, putting like a BI layer over that and doing some interesting projects. Adam's going to touch on them a bit more tomorrow, so I'll leave that. But because it's only part-time, it does give me the opportunity to go out and meet some cool businesses. I'm living in Lisbon right now, and there's a lot of innovation going on there. It's becoming one of the new startup hubs. There's a lot of government investment going on. There's a lot of smart people moving there from all over the world and Europe. And so yeah, my sort of ambition is to try and engage some interesting startups and work with them as an advisor and see if there's some interesting projects. So I'm going to talk about two of them today. They're quite interesting. Has anyone ever heard of either of these companies? Good. They're both young British companies who are doing it. You know, they're not just saying machine learning. They're actually talking about real applications. So ProgramEye are two chaps who were at ASOS. One of them is a marketing technologist, one of them is a PhD mathematician. He actually was originally working with dunnhumby to develop their new project after that. And they started with a challenge. They knew from the data that 75% of people who purchase and then don't purchase again within 14 days never go on to make that second purchase. And if you can encourage people onto that second purchase, then your propensity to go on and do 3, 4, 5 increases exponentially. So they started with, how can we solve that challenge of people only doing it once? So Ben, the data scientist, his PhD was around a principle called embeddings. Now, I'm not a data scientist, so I can't go into the techie stuff. I do have, for both of these guys, I have the slide deck, so in confidentiality, if you want to look through it, some of the sort of principles, you can have a look. But embeddings is actually a machine learning process for image recognition primarily. So it's used for spotting things that are similar in images and matching them up. And it's also used for natural language processing as well. But what they did is they took it and thought, how can we apply this to look for similar behaviors in churn propensity? And so they applied it to all of the people they knew were highly likely not to go on and purchase after that 14-day window, and they target them with very, very specific messaging using Facebook audiences and programmatic to incentivize them to come back. So whether it was messaging and creative or discounts, they were targeting this group very, very specifically. Once that began to work so well, they were looking at, well, right, when someone hasn't purchased, but they're anonymous, what behaviors are consistent with our high lifetime value customers? So when you come on the site and you hadn't bought yet, you hadn't authenticated, you begin to exhibit behaviors that were similar to higher lifetime value customers. They then pay more to acquire those guys in the future, because of course you'd want to pay more if you know somebody's going to deliver that bigger return on investment. And the results were staggering. In just 6 months, with I think 150k incremental spend on programmatic and Facebook, they did 6.3 million in incremental sales, and they're able to do that because they're matching it on the back end through the customer database. So obviously they decided, we can do this ourselves. Let's not just do it for ASOS, and so they're trying to build it into a platform at the moment, and we're actually doing a proof of concept with UK Flooring. So UK Flooring obviously less concerned about lifetime value because of the high consideration purchase, but they have a churn problem. So every single week, thousands of samples are sent out, and a very, very small percentage of those convert into sales. Now the problem is, because we keep sending those samples out, the call center, they can get through everyone in one run, but they can't go back to those other guys weeks after. They go into the dialer, and it's quite random how that's done. So right now, year to date, we're saying it's £11 million worth of potential business samples that have been sent out. ProgramEye are going to develop an algorithm to predict which of that £11 million we can go and grab, and we're going to do it through the call center. So we can actually execute it in Facebook and other digital channels as well, but the proof of concept is we're going to create a hot list in the call center and say, these are the guys who we don't just call once, we call twice, 3, 4 times, because they are 80% likely to be a high value customer in high products. So very exciting, and we'll let you know how the results go for that. 15 Gifts, a little bit further down the line, but still a young company. The name actually comes from, they worked for a personal gift website, so selling birthday gifts, and what they tried to do is help figure out what people were looking for. You're buying for a man, a woman, is it a birthday? And then they'd serve products like that, so very simple. But quite quickly, they realized that it was much more suitable for areas where there's a lot of choice, and so you've got this sort of choice sort of paradox where people are frozen by the sheer volume of decisions you can make. So telco is a really interesting space. And when I met them originally, they were working across a few different verticals, but they've simplified it just to target telco. So what happens is you go to the site and it just begins to, you say, give me a hand looking for a certain phone. They ask you about your preference for size, the cost, is it the contract, is it the quality of the device? And the real key to it is it learns over time using behavioral psychology. So what do certain types of people respond to? They can put inputs in from the customer database, from the website, and it successfully predicts given your answers, what is the best type of deal for you, whether it's value-based or whatnot. And so when I met these guys first, a mutual client in San Antonio, Texas, a couple of years ago, and they were charging Rackspace at that time £5,000 a month. So just for context in their market share, because like you said, there's a lot of people blagging in this space. They've never lost a telco client. They work with EE, T-Mobile, 3Mobile, O2. None of them have ever left. They average a 37% uplift in incremental sales through this approach. And it caught wind in the States. So they've signed, I think it was Verizon first. They didn't do such a good deal for that. But for AT&T, they're looking at £500,000 a month for the software license. So it's quite a jump because they were able to do a value-based deal looking at what those incremental sales would do. The deal went through, and the chief data officer of Sprint was on the phone straight away saying, we need to talk. I've heard about the work that you guys are doing. So it's a phenomenal business. And what's really exciting as well about them now is that telco is just one area. They wanted to get that right. And I think there's something to learn from that, getting your specialist area right and doing it well, but they're setting their sights on credit cards and travel and all of these things, and there is no competition, as I can see at the moment. So exciting gang of guys to be working with. They're based down in Brighton. Yeah, so I just sort of wanted to really give you guys a feel for what success looks like in this sort of machine learning space. Tomorrow, Adam's going to talk about some more specific examples of what we've done in the past. And we've actually got a couple of ideas about what might work for you guys as well. I'd be really keen to speak to you this evening as well about how you use data right now. Our approach back in the day, I guess, when we meet a company and they didn't know where to start, we do quite a simple matrix of how to get things going. So we want to make sure that you are collecting accurate, relevant data about your business, so that it's relevant to what you're trying to achieve, that you're able to communicate that data that you collect into insights. So whether it's a dashboard or a spreadsheet, something that tells the story behind the data is really important as well. So something that brings it to life, and we're going to talk about some visualization stuff tomorrow. But the important thing is how to act upon it, what to do with it. So whether that's retargeting or personalization or email campaigns, you've got to have that ability to activate. And so the way we would take companies along that maturity of collect, communicate, and activate was to have the right people skills, whether that's yourself internally or working with partners or agencies. You need to have the right process in place as well, and you need to have the right technology. So it's a 3x3 matrix of collect, communicate, and activate by people, process, and tech. And if you look at how you work with data across those 9 segments and evaluate yourself, you can begin to make a plan of how you can develop. So, cool.
Very well done. All right, great job.
Who's got questions? Go ahead. Oh, Adam's got questions. Adam?
No.
He's like, no, that's everything he said is full of crap. All right, okay, Tyrone, go ahead, please.
Okay, it's more so a statement than a question, but just on the topic of machine learning, there's a couple of things that we've been using for our customer service. We just started using it, and it's one of Zendesk's features, where if you have customer queries that come in, you can set it up so that if there's a recurring question, like say my product has been lost,
Sure.
The product didn't work for me, something like that. You can set it up so that a bot will basically put a scripted answer
Yes.
in, and basically you can build a knowledge base.
Definitely.
Not just for your customers, but also for your team. So even with your support team, if there's a new person coming on board, or you just want to basically improve workflow in the company, you can set up a knowledge base so that as things come in, it automatically gets added to that. And then that way you don't have to keep re-explaining it to new employees or to different employees.
Yeah.
It can just trigger an article or a video
Sure.
based on the question that's asked. So like say, where do we store our files? It would come up and it would link to the process that would laid out.
Yeah. The chatbot space definitely, particularly for you guys, I mean, 9 times out of 10 it's where's my order? And you can pull that quite easily from a status update from your delivery guys or whatever. There's a lot of competition in that space. A lot of the money that's going out at investor level is around that, because that reduction of reliance on the call center and of human input, there's huge efficiency gains to be made from that as well.
For sure. Who else has any questions? How many people are like, I don't know how machine learning is going to apply to me? Okay, that's a pretty normal reaction, by the way. But I'll just give you a quick example. So, and by the way, who's next? Achilles. Yeah. Okay. So, just be ready. We're coming to you soon. My brother Brian, he's kind of a data nerd like these guys, and he's got a shirt that says Data Nerd, and he basically did a chi-squared analysis. You guys know chi-squared?
No?
Okay, so chi-squared is a statistical analysis that you put in a certain amount of data, and it effectively gives you a percentage of causation, right? Earlier, Martina talked about correlation, which is nice, but correlation does not always correlate to causation, right? You can have correlation without causation. So chi-squared allows you to take two different data sources, and one of the data sources we did was when we spend money on AdWords and we get sales in the subsequent time period, what's the amount of relevance? What's the attribution? What's the cause? And by running, and it's a you can just look it up on Google. It's a formula, and you can make Excel do some of the work for you. But we were able to attribute like 89% of the cause of these sales to this particular spend on a particular time basis. And so that's not machine learning per se, but that's an example of just taking point A to point B. So he did that analysis on samples. So you guys all have, not samples, reviews. So reviews in Amazon for his particular business, and everybody's got their own variation in different categories, he was 70% more likely to have a 1 to 3 star review after 10 days. So how many of you guys have a feedback genius type sequence that goes beyond 10 days? Okay, a lot of people do. If they have 2 or 3 steps, sometimes they extend beyond 10 days. In his category, it's 70% more likely he'll have a 1 to 3 star review after 10 days. So the immediate thing is, oh, well, let's not email after 10 days, right? It takes off some of those things. So one potential application in the future, assuming we can get the data in and out and so forth, is to take the machine learning and go, when is the right time, based on some of these further upstream analysis, to ask for the reviews. If you ask too early, you ask too late, there can be problems on either side of that. So the intelligence that this stuff will bring is extraordinary.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's really important as well that people understand what's going on outside Amazon.
Right.
And that, because obviously Amazon's completely evolving and completely changing. But if the concentration is just inside Amazon, then you're actually locked into what Amazon's doing. You're not seeing what's happening on the wider world. And some of the technology that's going on to create the understand the data, understand how to use the data, leverage the data to convert more orders, and then from the efficiencies that you can drive through the call centre, from chatbots, is just growing at a fantastic rate. And there's a big wide world as well outside Amazon, and you guys are already, you're doing your supply chain, so you're doing your purchasing, you're doing your marketing. So stepping out and testing a bit outside of Amazon, well, you still maintain that Amazon. I think it's something that I'm sure you guys are looking at anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, maximizing the channel you have and don't lose the attention, but it is a big world.
Yeah. How many people have repeat purchases in? And do you segment your users by recency and frequency?
They're segmented like and managed by stats. The people shaking their head yes, which is just kind of an offline tracker, and then you probably do a lookalike audience in Facebook or something like that. So this is the point: is by taking those data sources, then applying machine learning, you would have a higher propensity to start to find correlations and potentially causations.
Yeah.
Like the idea of, how many of you guys know what Hitwise is? I'm sure they changed their name by now, but yeah. So of the 4 guys in the room, so Hitwise could tell you more about your customers than you could possibly imagine, and all of that data. Now you have to pay Hitwise for the privilege, by the way, but you could take that same lookalike audience. So you append your data. So for you guys' benefit, Amazon doesn't tell us much, but we know the address. So when you go get a data append, you're going to get a
Yeah.
42% hit rate. Now you've got a look, you got your standard customer, then you do your lookalike, and then you can start doing hitwise appends to say what's happening. What are these customers?
Yeah.
Machine learning then says, where are the most profitable customers? Which are the ones who give us the highest reviews and the lowest returns, and so on and so forth. Tyrone?
Yeah, I have a question. We're constantly looking to see how we can automate as many processes as possible and really see where bottlenecks in productivity are in the team. Now, I would like to ask, in terms of machine learning, we use Time Doctor for a lot of our VAs so we can track and see what activities and tasks are being done through different things like Asana. I would be interested to know is, could you apply this to really do an analytics on where the time is being spent in the team and then look at which of these processes are repetitive and maybe create
Sure.
what?
Well, that's more business intelligence, and that Adam's going to touch on that tomorrow as well, around giving you the statistics around the performance of what you do right now, and that can be anything from finance to marketing to the logistics side and whatever. Machine learning is more about prediction. So I want to say, of all of the people I'm trying to reach, who is the most likely to do X? Or I want to know, of all of my keyword spend, which one is delivering the greatest return on investment. So it's about applying prediction to the variables within your business. What I'd be really interested in is what you don't know. I think that's where we'd start, is what are the big question marks within your sort of MO at the moment? What are the things you don't know that you're acting on hunch with? And then when you start with those challenges, then you can begin to backfill in specific solutions of data that can answer those questions as well.
A very good point. Let's give it up for Rob, everybody.